Guys, how you doing? My name's Lama and today I wanted to talk to you about WeakAura's. More specifically, WeakAura's relating to the completion of Mythic Plus Dungeons. Now, for anyone who's been living under a rock in Durotar, WeakAura's are an add-on that allows you to customize your UI to gain access to information that might otherwise not be available to you, or certainly not available in a manner that's easy to access, and as a result requires your use of an add-on to make that information available to you. Now this has a lot of functionality, but this video is just going to be looking at ways in which you can use this add-on to get your UI in a manner that would help you to improve your Mythic Plus success and also the times in which you are completing your Mythic Plus dungeons. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Now before I begin with the specific WeakAura's in question, I do want to make it very clear that these WeakAura's have all been made by other people, and I am simply a person who uses these WeakAura's and I feel that it benefits me and would recommend you to do the same. I am not the author of these WeakAura's. If you have any problems with them, I recommend using the wa.go website where you will find all of these and looking through the comments on the specific WeakAura's to see if there's any way that you can rectify the problem you're having, or even if it's a known problem, let the developer know. But yeah, I am not an expert when it comes to the creation of WeakAura's. I just know how to use them in a manner that helps with the Mythic Plus completion. So with that said, the first WeakAura that we're going to discuss is BFA Dungeons. It's a simple title as that. I'll put the description to all of these WeakAura's down in the description. Links down in the description. Yeah, that makes more sense. Links down in the description below. But this WeakAura is the one that you see over to the left hand side of my screen that I will point out here for you. And what it does is it notifies you of any incoming abilities from bosses or trash in dungeons that you need to be aware of, and also how you are best capable of dealing with them. Now this is incredibly advantageous for anyone who doesn't really care for being involved in the dungeon in a story sense. If you know that most of these dungeons boil down to the same few mechanics and you just want to get through them, what this is going to do is it's going to give you a picture to represent the ability in question, what you need to do in order to deal with said ability, and also a timer of how long that ability is going to be up for. This is really handy with things such as the first fight in Temple of Sithralis, where it lets you know about the lightning shield, so you don't end up hitting the wrong targets. It's also notable for the trash in Motherlode with the AoE throwing knives that can easily destroy a group in Mythic Plus, and it allows you to know that it's ongoing so you can hard CC the mob to prevent it, things like that. There are an awful lot of uses for this WeakAura, and I highly recommend getting it before you ever set foot into a BFA dungeon. Now next up we have the Interrupt WeakAura. Now the one that I'm using, I have forgotten the name of, but it will be down in the description below for you. And what this does, there are countless WeakAura's that do this, but this is my favourite, and it allows us to see what interrupts are available to the group and the current cooldown on them. Now this is incredibly important for a great many different reasons. Both in the short term, it allows you to know whether an interrupt is available to be used on an ability that needs to be interrupted. It also allows you to gain an understanding for how reliable your group members are for using their interrupts. Now, that isn't as useful in the short term if it's a pug, but it is incredibly helpful if you're looking to form a long-term group. If you know that someone has a problem with it, you can identify that problem and maybe help them in developing their use of their interrupts to allow for the development of your progress in Mythic Plus. This also works for the blame game. If you are one of those people when everything goes wrong who likes to point fingers, it will help you to do that. I don't personally recommend this, but if that is what you like to do, then it will help you to identify maybe where the problem came and maybe get you off from the blame. Now next up we have what I refer to as my class's heads up display. Now this is the WeakAura that I use on every single character I have in every single spec that I have, but the WeakAura's do vary by class and spec, so I'm not going to provide a link for these ones, but I am going to describe what this does and why I use the ones that I do, so that then maybe you can help make yourself an informed decision on which one you like. But basically what this does is it provides me all the information I need on the mechanics of playing my character in a very small and discrete manner in the center of my screen. So for example, the ones that I use for my Demon Hunter when I'm tanking show me my pain, as well as my cooldowns on both internal cooldowns like my cheat death mechanic, as well as anything that has about a 20-second cooldown or longer. It also shows me whether I have my demon spikes active and the cooldowns on my sigils. Now this is incredibly helpful if you're playing a class like my two mains, which are the Holy Priest and the tanking Demon Hunter, because both of these have a mechanic whereby some of their cooldowns are reduced by interactions with other abilities, and that becomes incredibly difficult to keep a track of. It's not hard when you have a 20-second cooldown to know roughly when 20 seconds has gone by, but during a 1 minute period, how many reductions you get from using other abilities can be quite difficult to keep a track of. And with this, it means that I'm never going to be in a situation where I wish I had a button to press and I don't press it when I actually do have access to it, because I'll know that I have access to it. Now, this is more important for some classes than others, but everybody will benefit from having some sort of weak aura that allows for the tracking of these things. Now, that being said, there is a couple of things that you want to be able to do with this weak aura and a couple of things you want to avoid. So a lot of people will have big flashy weak auras to accomplish this, and if that works for you then great, but personally I like to choose the weak auras that give me all the information that I need in as small and concise of a space as possible, because otherwise you will end up with a very cluttered screen. Some of these things are very artistic and that is great, but in terms of functionality, I personally like very small amount of space taken up with just small boxes with all the information inside the boxes and maybe a couple of bars for resource generation. If you want a bit more flashy, then you go right ahead and you do so, but I think it's going to be less beneficial than having all the information concisely displayed upon your screen. Now, the final one of these weak auras that I wish to mention is slightly specific to healers. It is useful to everybody, but it is incredibly useful for healers, and that is this replenishment weak aura that I have up on the screen here for you. Now, what this does is it provides a clickable button for using your drinks as a healer. This also works for food for other characters that are low on health, and obviously if you are pushing high Mythic Plus keys, while your healer's drinking, if you're not at full health, you will to be eating because it just saves the time for the healer from healing you. However, this is most beneficial on a healing class. I use it all of the time on my priest. I have it set so that it prioritizes the use of mage food above any other food, but then will go down to those if I don't have any mage food available. And whenever I am out of combat and below 70% mana, I will get this weak aura appear on my screen. It'll be a flashing picture of the food that it wants to eat that reminds me both that I am low on mana and lets me know what I'll be using in order to replenish it. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you found it informative. Please look down in the description below for links to all of the weak auras I have mentioned, but do bear in mind that you can always create your own or find other alternatives that do the same job if you don't like the ones that I have linked. Similarly, if you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, it really does help. Also, if you want to be informed for the next time I bring out a video like this, please do subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Later.